Welcome to This Week Inside Sim Racing. I'm Sean Cole, and with me as usual is my good buddy Darren Ganji.
Hey everybody.
And This Week Inside Sim Racing is sponsored by iRacing.com, where we have our own deal, and that's for the March 31st event coming up. And in that deal, you'll get all the base content, plus the trucks, plus Michigan for only $20. You can try out iRacing for the first time. Just go there and sign up with the special code PR-ISR Trucks.
That's right. And we have a new prize to announce for that special race, the March on Michigan 300, and it's the Track Boss Champion by Derek Spears. He actually sent us one to review, and we're going to be checking this out on the show soon, but he also offered up one for this race.
That is like the king of all boxes.
This thing's badass. And this thing's made of metal, and it's pretty sweet. We're going to talk about it on the show pretty soon, but that's going to be a prize on top of the other ones that we've announced, the RC GTR V2, the GT Omega wheel stand, $200 in gift cards for the NASCAR Superstore, that's $100 each, and two $100 gift certificates for iRacing. So
sounds like a lot of people are going to win prizes at this
we may have a
event.
few more prizes. We've talked to Thrustmaster, NVIDIA, and Tamiya, and we're hoping to have prizes on board for those guys. So
Ever growing.
this is going to be a big event.
So what you have to do is you have to go to sscarace.com. You can sign up there. I know we already
No,
have
I don't have to. I've already signed up. You have to.
I need to, so that would make it 101, because I know we have over 100 people.
Well, we already have over 100 people, so it'd be like, we're actually, I think, up to about 120.
Wow.
So 430 people max. Get over to sscarace.com.
I need
Sign
to do
up.
It. You all need to do it.
Yeah, set up. Hey, we're going to have a blast race. We're going to have about 10 different servers doing some tournament racing. Going to be awesome. Prizes throughout the different splits, so not just to the top winner. The top winner will get something.
Right.
Broadcast PSR TV, so make sure to check it out. So today's episode, based mainly on your trip to Dallas, so why am I even here?
Well, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
I need to have somebody to talk with it about.
Exactly. I'm going to ask you about it. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. But before we do have some other stuff like we mentioned on the show. And over the past year or so, we haven't really talked about it much. We've sent you to our site to check it out, but we haven't talked about a lot of the changes that we've made at the site on the back end and the functionality of it. And one of the main things is that we've realized over the years is that a lot of our good content, well, hopefully you think all of our content's good, but a lot of really great tech segments and track tip segments and just segments in general are buried in some of our older, longer shows.
Sure.
So what we've gone and done is, I'd like to thank Sean Purdy for helping us code that whole back end of our site. But what we've done is we've created segment pages or video landing pages to where, like, for instance, Sean just came out with his Shocks Tech Tip segment. Now that was a standalone video, but in the past, we'd done some ones on camber and caster, or Sean had, tires, just different ones, and we've segmented those out and have them in our new tech center.
Sure, and that might be a video that's already 3 years old. When you go to it, we didn't re-edit it. This is still in the same show, so it just makes it easy to find. So if you go to the tech center, for example, and go to a tech tip, it'll queue up that moment in the show. You'll still be watching that show though, so when Tech Tip ends, it'll keep playing and you can watch the rest of the show.
Yep.
Or fast forward to the beginning if you like. But it's all there, so much easier to find now.
Yeah, and then if you want to go back to the tech tips, just hit the back button on your browser and check it out that way. Not sure how it's going to work on smartphones. Yours was able to play the segments no problem. My Windows phone, go figure, it doesn't play the segments, so it doesn't work so well. But on the PC, boot up any browser and it'll take you right to those portions of the show. Like Sean said, they're queued up right there and you can watch, you can comment on that particular segment. And go to our search.
Yeah.
Just type in tips.
Yeah.
And you'll see all the different tips will come up right there in our internal search engine. So check out our site, InsideSimRacing.tv, and hopefully you'll enjoy all the different functionality. Polls, we got a poll, what wheel do you use up right now? So join in on that and sign in at our site, register to site, and you have all the functionality to comment on the site and at the forum. So hopefully you guys can get a lot out of that. And next up on the show,
Well, it's something we've been previewing.
well, that's not it.
That's not it.
That's not
Something
racing.
we-
That's actually my Daytona race.
It was up there earlier. It's Test Drive Ferrari Racing Legends, which this is something that I knew was coming, but kind of new news. Now we've heard Slightly Mad Studios are the guys behind it.
And I had no idea. As a matter of fact, I went and checked on Virtual R to see if they had reported it being from Slightly Mad. As a matter of fact, I got a press release on this about a month ago and thought about it for, I think we had it even written into it This Week in Sim Racing, and I thought, that's a little console-ish. Let's just leave it. Let's just talk about it when it gets closer to release. So all of a sudden I get another email saying, hey, you want to check it out? Sure, we'll check it out. I get the press release and it says Slightly Mad.
Yeah.
Like, what? Wait a second, let's put this thing in now and check it out. And so, do you remember the project? 2008, I went back and looked. Ferrari project it was Blimey at the time, not
Right.
Slightly Mad.
So there's a clue.
Yeah, so these guys were working on this project years ago, and they must have got Atari to pick it up and publish it for them.
Yeah, I just thought they were working in their own direction. Had no idea this was going to be here with their name on it now, and definitely something that's a lot of fun.
Yep. Ferraris, abundance of I've never seen this many Ferraris in one title.
No.
52 different Ferraris from 1947 to present, 30 plus different variations of some really great tracks, and really some of the environments, are really old school, really kind of bring you back. Not that I was actually at those places, but I've driven a lot of these tracks, like in Grand Prix Legends,
Right.
The old school Mazda, Rouen, and then Monaco. There's a version of Monaco, and I can't even pronounce the name that they use. It's not
Coat
called.
to something.
Yeah, where you go up around the back part of Monaco. But anyway, we're going to be checking that out. We have the Xbox 360 preview version, definitely early stages.
Yeah.
There's some, they're definitely working on this still. Due out spring of 2012, going to be for the Xbox 360, PS3, and the PC. Again, Slightly Mad are the developers, and we're looking forward to it. Yeah, we've had some fun with it.
Yeah, and Test Drive, that's a sim that's been around for a long
Sim?
time. It's a game, driving game.
Yeah,
Driving
more of a
experience?
game. Definitely more. Test Drive has always been more on the driving game thing. But I tell you what, this is probably going to be more sim than Test Drive has ever been.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Especially with the Slightly Mad. Definitely Need for Speed Shift feel to it, both in the user interface and in the physics.
And the music.
That's what I was talking in the user interface. So, gonna have that on the show here soon. We're gonna have a full first look on it, and that should be up hopefully in about a week from the time this airs. And next up, we head to Dallas.
Yeah, well,
You headed to Dallas. You headed to Dallas.
Got to take another working vacation, a lot of fun. The guys, iRace for Life was the big charity behind the event for the most part.
And Gateway for Men, which was actually a church in Texas. So this was this place was huge.
Yeah, this was a very, very big deal for this Gateway Church. They had their Alpha Summit going on, and we were kind of like maybe a little sideshow to the whole thing going on. So they had their big auditorium filled and a lot of things going on directly for the church in that direction. We had our iRacing seminar where we had a lot of things we were going to be learning as sim racers going on sort of during all of this.
Now, Sion Alford, he's one of the ministers at this church, and he's the guy, he's actually a sim racer, and he's the one that organized this whole portion of it for us sim racers to come check out. And I think he wanted us to check out another part of his life, which was this Gateway ministry.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's sort of like, we all have something in common. So maybe there are more things in his life that he can show us, or vice versa, things like that. And beyond that, he was actually on the stage as part of the band, and actually rather talented.
Rocking out?
Yeah, very much rocking out.
Got some footage of that. And so you sat down with an interview with Sion. Now, this is actually towards the end.
Yeah, this is sort of a 2.5, 3 day event, and you could see him getting a little more aged, worn, tired. I don't know what you want to say. A lot for him going on. So I interviewed him sort of after it had all happened, just to talk to him about the whole event in general.
Seems like a great guy.
Very, very cool guy, and very smart when it comes to iRacing and, well, many things.
Let's check out that interview.
I'm here at the iRaceforLife.org seminar, and I'm here actually with the organizer, Sion Alford. And how you doing today?
Great, Sean. Great.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about what spawned the idea? How did this event come to be?
Well, I really have a desire to get iRacers together, and we were on the forums and on the Texas forums, and I realized how many guys were just in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Austin, and I said, Texas being one of the greatest countries in America, I thought it'd be great to get all of us together. And so I talked with a couple of local guys here that I've been in connection with, and they thought it was a good idea. And we thought, let's not just talk about getting Texas guys together. Let's open it up to the community and open up the entire iRacing community and see if people would come in from out of town. And then we had access to this great facility where I work.
Okay.
And so the church here opened up their doors and said, hey, we'll have this thing here as a part of one of our conferences. And so that really helped because we've got great facilities and great TA and tech support and IT support here.
Right.
To be able to pull an event like this off at a very low cost.
I was blown away the moment I got here because, you hear these events and you're on your way and you're thinking, oh, it's going to be some little dingy banquet room in some seedy hotel, and quite the opposite. So in planning the event, I mean, you were organizing people, bringing them together. Are these all people you knew, or were you reaching out into the world looking for people?
Well, I had been in touch with Kevin Bobbitt over at iRacing and got some names from him of some people that he thought might be interested in. And I looked at the names, and a lot of those guys I just didn't really know that well. Even though when I'm an iRacer, I'm not on there all the time. And so, but a couple of names that Greg and I talked about. One of them was David Cater. And I thought, hey, I've been online with David. He's a great guy. He's somebody that likes the iRacing community, gives a lot to it, and really has in sim racing for many years. And so Dave and I have been in a lot of sessions together, and though we might not we didn't really have a strong relationship, at least I knew that this was a really quality guy.
Right.
I said, I think he's got the heart for what we want to do, which is really to give. We just wanted to give to the community,
right?
The iRacing community, to help these relationships come together, and also to see other iRacers become better iRacers.
That's something that I think is really impressive, but the giving part of this, and that it takes a lot of effort to put this all together, and to an extent, I mean, you get the smile and gratitude back, but you don't necessarily get anything back directly from it, and I appreciate that you put it on, and I learned a lot. Now, in doing this show, I have learned a lot in preparing to do this show, amazingly. Right. So, in preparing for this event, did you find yourself getting smarter as you just started preparing for it?
Well, actually, I found myself realizing how much I didn't know.
Right.
And so that's why I brought guys like David in. We had Charles Cosper. He came in, as well as Greg Spears. These guys, they know how to set up these oval cars. They run at another level. And so I'm realizing that, my strengths are not necessarily theirs. And I think by combining our strengths together, we were able to put together a conference and a seminar that we hope really encourage some of the iRacers that were here.
Absolutely. Let's talk about a few of the sponsors of the event.
Absolutely. Fast Track Sims was a great part of this. They sent over some boots for us so people could try those out. I want to say Sim Experience obviously gave us their blessing. Todd Cannon came down, and we got to try out his shifter, which I'm sure you got to take a look at.
Oh yeah, I had more than a look. I drove it for a couple hours actually.
Okay.
They couldn't get
Great
me away
shifter.
from the shifter.
I'm getting one, and by the way, Todd, if you're watching this, I get the first. Okay.
I thought I got the first.
I get the first. So, but it's so we got Todd Racing. He brought a bunch of his pedals. MPR Setup Analyzer, great help. Sent CD keys or software keys, so everybody at the seminar was able to get a free copy of that software. That was great.
Cool.
Also, Derek Spear really blessed us. He gave us a button box that we gave away to one lucky individual. And of course, Tim's Custom Diecast, which I personally have one of my car. We gave away to our race winner for the tournament session on Friday night.
I wanted that car so bad I can't even tell you. Now, what about iRaceforlife.org? Why don't you tell me a little bit about that group?
iRaceforlife.org is it's a nonprofit organization that's underneath the Blanket Ministry, and that we have, and our music ministry here. And it was started one day. I was painting my car, which I kind of like to do. It's kind of the artsy side of me. So I was painting my car one day, and I was trying to figure out what logo to put on the car, because everybody wants to run something they're kind of proud of.
Right.
And I thought, well, I mean, I could put, this or this or this, or my favorite football team or something. And I thought, why not put something on here that actually means something and that can actually benefit someone, help someone.
Right.
And so the idea was kind of birthed. Why not start an organization that racers can join? It's absolutely free to join. You join a team, and every time, what you do is you basically commit that every time you win a race, you can either give $5, $10, or $15 to any nonprofit organization that you would like to give it to, Red Cross or Samaritan's Purse, or your local church or any charity that you want to give that to. So basically, it's a commitment that guys make that, hey, every time I win a race, I'm going to give $15 or $10 or $5. So that's where we get our motto, racing for a reason. So now while we're out there on the track, we're not just racing so we can get our stats and our I ratings up. We're racing to say, hey, if I win this race, there may be a child in Africa that gets fed, or someone gets a shirt on the back in a homeless shelter in downtown Dallas.
Right.
And so that's how it was kind of born. And we've got a website now where you can go and you can sign up, and you can run the logo on your car if you want to. You don't have to, but it's a great way to bring awareness out there that we as even iRacers can give back to the community.
What I like about that, or what would be terrible for me, and this sounds terrible, but that'd be the year I won the most races ever, I'm sure. I go broke with donations, which I suppose would be a very good thing.
And the neat thing about it is they don't actually give money to us. And so money doesn't come through us.
Right.
It goes directly to the organizations that they want to give. And so, if people are uncomfortable giving to an organization they don't know about, they can give to one that they do know about. So money doesn't come through us.
But it's really, the point is for you making people aware.
Exactly.
And getting them thinking that, hey, I can do the right thing, and what a great way to do it, or racing for a reason. So
exactly.
Well said there. So looking at the seminar and all the things that you planned, how did things play out over the 3 days?
Well, I will say they definitely exceeded our expectations. And I think we knew it was going to. David and I had talked on the phone, and I had this feeling that it was going to be very good. But once we got in, we started meeting guys, got into this, a lot of the discussions were very interactive. We had, I know you got some footage of David sitting in one of the chassis and driving, and as he's talking, he's sharing with us how he sets up a certain car for a certain track.
Right.
It was very informative, and we were able to take Q&A with David sitting right there in the car. And also at the same time, we had other guys in the room sitting in their pods or their chassis being able to make those adjustments themselves and seeing how they reacted to the setups themselves. So it was, I learned more in this 3 days about setting up a car, about other aspects of iRacing than I think I have in 3 years.
I completely agree. And you had some great speakers, yourself included, up there teaching. What I love about these type of things is that it's not always from the person doing the speaking. Sometimes it's from the audience.
Exactly.
And it might even be a question from the audience that sparked the idea in my head, not the answer. So
exactly.
I had a great time at the event. Are we going to see another one of these in the future?
We are, and we have tentative plans right now. Check out our website at iraceforlife.org, and that's iRace with a 4, for life.org. Go there, we'll post some dates. Right now, we're tentatively looking at March 7th and 8th of 2013. We've just got to get some other things lined up to make that date happen, but that's what we're looking at right now. So we're going to try to make it an annual event, and next year we've learned a lot this year, and some things to do and not to do, and so next year it's going to be, I think, 100 times better.
I agree. These things, the first is always sort of the learning experience, and the word gets out, and it kind of builds on it for the future.
Right.
Well, I got to thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you, first
Thank you,
of all.
Sean.
And I got to thank you for having this event. I myself learned a ton, and I do this every day, but there's so much great information, and it was a pleasure. And thanks for being a part of that, iRaceForLife.org, and it's a great cause. And anybody out there who wants to do the right thing, get some donations in, what a great way to take your victories and turn it into a better day for someone else, perhaps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so there's a little bit about the structure of this event, and got to hear from the event organizer, Sion Alford, and more on the event. Sean got to sit down with some sim racers. There were some seminars that took place, some racing that you guys did.
Got to do some driving.
All sorts of stuff when we come back on This Week Inside Sim Racing.
Take your hobby to the next level with a quality racing rig that works great with a PS3, Xbox 360, and a PC. GT Omega Racing Simulator is compatible with a wide range of steering wheels, including Logitech, Fanatec, Thrustmaster, and more. The GT Omega is available now worldwide by going to www.gtomegaracing.com.
Welcome back to This Week Inside Sim Racing. So back to the seminar, Sean, that you went to in Dallas. So you guys did some racing late into the wee hours of Friday morning.
Yeah, every part of the seminar kind of went a little late. You know, these things are when you're doing it for the first time especially. But we finally, all of us were dying to racing. Some guys had brought their rigs down, and so we did a couple of heat races and did some oval racing and ended up going till 1:30 in the morning, at which point we realized that if we didn't get out of there like on the spot, all the alarms in the place were going to go off. So we literally, everybody scattered to different doors, and you had about 3 to 5 minutes to gather your things and be out of the building.
Kind of Mission Impossible.
It was, but it's just, who would have known we were going so late? But you know, you get racers together, and you don't want to stop. I mean, it would have been 2:30, 3:30 if no one had realized.
That's pretty awesome. Now, there was a prize awarded to the winner that night?
Yeah, they definitely had a prize to the winner. We did 2 heats to sort of narrow the field a little bit, and then you had the big group go out and winner take all. And Robert Asbury ended up winning the whole thing. Him and Charles Cosper kind of doing that switching thing, and he got the lucky rotation, was the one to win.
So what did he win?
He won a custom-made die-cast car of his car. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, you gotta love that prize.
Cool. So besides the racing, there were some seminars.
Yeah,
that took place.
I think that was really the main point here with the seminars. David Cater was going to be doing a couple of different ones. One was going to be building a balanced setup. So, and this is oval stuff we're talking about, but just where to start with getting a balanced setup so that you can then work on it for various different tracks. He also did another one on building a super speedway setup. Am I going too far?
No. Now, that sounds, super speedway is usually pretty, tricky. I mean, people don't want to give away super speedway setups because you're looking for every little hundredth of a second.
Well, funny you mention that, because he really gave you about 85% of a super speedway. When it came down to tires, he just sort of started laughing and said, "You're going to have to take care of that on your own."
In tire pressure, that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's one of the toughest things to get perfect, so.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool.
But if you had paid attention during the balanced car setup, he did tell you what to do with tire pressures to get certain things. So if you put it all together, you should have a pretty good head start.
Right on. And we're gonna try to put those all together as individual segments. We're gonna air those on our SRT media, because they're a little raw, and if it all works out, we'll have those up and in our tech section. So it must have been cool. Did they have some other stuff? Now, there was a guy, Greg Spears, there. Did he do something? And then there was another, and Scion did some stuff. And
yeah, so Greg Spears was working with David, and at one point what they taught us was how to switch. So if you're doing a lot of iRacing on the oval side, when you draft, if you stay with your bumper up on somebody's bumper like you might at Talladega or Daytona, you're gonna start overheating. And when you get to these guys who are the best of the best, they know how to, as teammates, literally pull out of the way and switch so that they don't lose a beat. And it looks like the guys who run the velodrome on bicycling.
Oh, wow.
And it's it looks just like that, and they time it perfectly and they lose nothing. Whereas if you and I went out there, and we're good oval racers, we're gonna lose time to these guys.
Well, because we're not gonna, looks like a choreographed or coordinated effort between these guys that they're doing. So that's pretty neat. And what else?
What else? Okay.
Telemetry.
Telemetry. Scion, who put this whole thing on, he actually opened up Atlas software, the McLaren software for iRacing, and showed us what you're looking at. And when it comes to telemetry, I know a little bit, but this stuff is for hardcore engineers. And one of the biggest leaps for me would be even, how do I turn it on? How do I pull in data? And so he took you through some of those steps first, and then started showing you what you're looking at, how to control things, what to do, what to look at, how to change the colors so you can look at left and right side at the same time.
So now, I'm curious about the telemetry end of it. Now, you said, being an engineer. Now, can't you do lap analyzation, to see when you're getting off the throttle or getting on and compare different laps? Is there stuff like that in there too?
Sure, you can pretty much look at anything from your inputs as a driver to what the car is doing system by system, and you can look at each corner individually. And so, he gave you enough to really get started. And some of the things you need to know, like how to look at one corner versus the entire track, because when you're looking at your steering input, if you look at the whole track, it's madness. When you break it down to small sections, you can start to see what you're actually doing.
Nice. Now, iSpeed.
iSpeed. I have always thought of iSpeed as just something that runs a little display. We've both used it on and off. Fraser Marshall did a thing on iSpeed, and using it not just as the display, but also as a telemetry analyzing tool, where you can actually record your laps in iSpeed, which it does automatically, and it has its own software. You could bring it in and you can look at your track line, for example. How are you driving the track? Where are you shifting on the track? I could pull in your laps and say,
and do comparison?
Yeah, and look, Darren's taking a tighter line than me and he's getting 15 miles an hour on exit than I am. Or look, I'm not shifting and Darren is shifting and I'm gaining a tenth by not shifting. So he shows you.
That's powerful stuff.
It is, and it's a lot easier than like the full telemetry Atlas software. So this is just as good a tool, slightly different information available. So again, a lot to be learned there.
Next up, Martin Plowman, IndyCar driver.
Yeah.
First heard his name, honestly. I hadn't heard of his name from the IndyCar series, but heard his name in the pro race.
Right.
That I did some announcing for on iRacing.
Yeah.
Where they had all those pro real life drivers racing against each other, and Martin Plowman, I think he finished in the top 3 for the overall.
Yeah, he
for
did.
That thing.
He did very well there. Well, he was here, I guess, one of the sponsors, this is his sponsor on the IndyCar, and he's sort of affiliated with all that. So we got circles kind of crisscrossing. He was there, he came in, and he did a little talk about his sponsors, his effort for this year in IndyCar, and more importantly, it kind of got opened up to a little question and answer. So we all got to ask him certain questions, and there was a lot of focus more on his iRacing efforts, I think, than his IndyCar efforts at that point.
Well, he's a sim racer, so that's, we want to see how that relates, I'm sure. Now, our sim rig of the week came from this show.
Yeah.
And we mentioned him at the top of the show, Sion Alford. Now, there was a few more than one rig at this that people had brought their own rigs.
Yeah, they had encouraged everybody to bring their own. There were 3. You had Greg, David, and Sion all had their rigs at the front. Robert DeGraff actually brought his rig from Austin. It was there. Todd Cannon had a rig. And then you had a bunch of guys who brought wheels and their computers, so they were kind of hooked up at different benches. That's what we ended up racing on at night. But it was really easy to pick a rig from this crowd and say, if there's a rig here that should be on Sim Rig of the Week, it's Sion's, because this was an amazing rig.
So tell us all about it.
Well, the rig all begins with the Sim Experience Stage 1 kit. This offers 2 degrees of motion to the seat. The front part of the assembly is custom built from profile tubing. The rig is equipped with a Thrustmaster T500 wheel and CST pedals mounted to the floor bracket. Meanwhile, the shifting is done with a TSW 6-speed speed shifter. He uses 3 Asus 27-inch backlit monitors, as well as a 19-inch monitor for telemetry and a 7-inch touch display running TouchBuddy software. He has a SimProjects rev burner running a 4.5-inch TAC, and in addition to that, there's a 240-watt amp driving 2 Aura shakers, with one of them mounted to the seat and the other one under the feet. Powering the system is an Intel i7 with 16 gigabytes of RAM, dual NVIDIA 560 video cards, and 850 watts of power, all in an Antec skeleton case.
That thing looked pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really bummed I didn't get to go to this event. For 1, to meet all these guys, and for 2, to check out that sim rig. And speaking of meeting all these guys, you got to meet a lot of sim racers while you were there.
Yeah, that's, for me, anytime I get to leave town and do one of these, it's about meeting the people. And, us sim racers, we come in all different shapes and sizes, but the bottom line is we're all racers. We're into cars, we love winning races, and just all of them are the same mentality as me, and no matter where we go.
Let's hear from some of them.
What got you started in sim racing?
Actually, walking through Best Buy and seeing NASCAR 2002 when
Right.
it first came out.
Uh-huh.
And I seen the box. I said, okay, I read the back of the box and said, okay, what do I need? So I went and bought some little old Walmart computer
Uh-huh.
and started with the steering wheel from Walmart that had the lips on it where you put it on and set your legs, right?
Yeah.
And had to drive it like this because it was up here, the little plastic thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I started, on a dial-up, having people get ticked at me because I would blink and wreck them.
Right.
So now they still do, I just don't blink.
I started sim racing when Gran Turismo came out. Back in 1997.
Oh, the original.
The original, very first one, right? And that was the time when my wife lost me.
Uh-huh.
I was hooked. I just loved every
Right.
minute of it.
Yeah, I kind of grew up in a racing family. My dad was my dad's dad was owned a Ford dealership,
Uh-huh.
and so my dad grew up underneath a car, building hot rods and going down to Daytona every year because I was raised in Florida. And so all through the 70s, we went to Daytona every year, camped out and had a great time. Saw the Cale Yarborough, Donnie Allison fight firsthand. And,
awesome.
And so, so I was kind of in racing, but I realized I'd probably starve to death if I tried to make a living at it. So, like everybody else, I went and got a real job. But I like speed, like cars, and started getting into sim racing, obviously, with the first Papyrus sim racing software that came out, I guess, and got in, was racing back in the Hawaii days, all the way through 10, and then took a little hiatus.
One of the originators of the online racing, really, or part of that first crowd.
I remember the dial-up modems and the long-distance bills to Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah. Waterloo, Massachusetts.
Well, most of my sim racing, I guess, has been mostly on the console. And probably 8 or 9 years, seriously. I think actually the first Gran Turismo is what really got me back into it. So, I mean, my history goes back as, if you want to count Night Driver, I guess, the old Atari game, but that's...
I count it all to the very first arcade game that we could play with the steering wheel.
Or the paddle controller.
Right. And how long have you been sim racing?
About 2 years. GTR Evo for quite a while, and then iRacing for a year.
And what got you into sim racing?
To be honest, when I moved from LA, there was no racetracks or anything in Austin. I know they're building a Formula One track now, but at the time there was nothing, and I used to do a lot of shifter karts. So I needed some kind of racing fix. So I got back in looking at sims, and it kind of took off from there.
I actually started sim racing with NASCAR racing when I was just little. I had a computer and I had to get a steering wheel, and I've had every Papyrus game all the way up through, but I never raced online. So I got into iRacing. I said, well, I have to race online.
You went all the way through NASCAR 2003. You never did online racing.
Never did online.
You never just like race with a friend on a network? Nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
So yeah,
single player.
I lived out in the country. We had terrible internet connection. So finally, iRacing. I moved up here to go to school to Dallas, and good internet. Figured I'd try the internet racing, and I love it.
What kind of equipment do you use? What's your setup at home like?
I've got an Antec case with it's a special made computer that I've got a friend of mine that builds my stuff. It's probably in the neighborhood of about $1,300 for the computer, but it's a nice 5-fan airflow system. I've got the 324-inch LEDs. I use a G27. I use Todd Cannon's CSTs. I love those CSTs, man. Those are the best pedals ever made. And I, just like Junior, I put mine on a desk, man. I got a leather high back office chair. And I sit a lot like Dale Sr. did in his car. When you see Dale Sr. sit, he sit real low and leans back. I'm the same way. My steering wheel's about right here. My eye level is at the bottom of the screen. And I sit kind of back and down.
You put on the goggles?
No goggles. I'm still trying to find the open face helmet, the black open face, but I ain't quite got that bad yet.
And your setup at home, what kind of equipment you use? Tell me a little bit about what you run in.
You bet. When I first started, of course, we had the D-pad and the rumble strip, and I mean the rumble pad and all that. And then Logitech came out with that Gran Turismo wheel. And so I bought that wheel the first day it came out. I was so excited, Went home, and then I thought, how am I going to set this thing up? So I went in the garage.
They don't say that on the box. They don't warn you.
They don't do that. So I went in the garage. I found a table, hacksaw the wheel, hacksaw the legs off, put that sucker on there, and started driving it. And then I just fell in love with the force feedback and all that. And then it went from there to the next Logitech wheel after we saw that over at the Gaming Expo in LA. And then after that, it went to the G25, and then we went to the G27. Then we got the Bob Earl Racing chassis, the Mark 1. But it's just fantastic.
I was checking out your rig inside. You brought your rig down from Austin. Very cool rig. Why don't you tell me a little about that?
It's based on an Obutto. I got Club Sport pedals, putting CSTs on it, and I usually run triple screens, but I only brought one screen. I was a little lazy, but. Got a modified G27 wheel, put a Momo Formula rim on it. I have another one where it's a Formula round rim, so I can kind of try to simulate a real car.
And what about the buttons? How'd you do the buttons on there?
Actually, I started making some custom button panels, and Derek Spear makes a great one too. So sometimes I use his. Otherwise, if I need a custom one, I do it myself.
Okay. Cool. And what kind of equipment? What do you race with?
I have it here, just a stock G25. The pedals, I have the Bodner cable, and then just on a desk. No fancy cockpit, no nothing. Just drive in front of a desk. I have my 27-inch monitor, looks great. Computer runs smooth, and I also have my Lane Sim Products LED button box. It's great. It's a new technology. He's just coming out with it. I got the first one to try it, and it works great.
This is the button box.
Yes,
right here.
Yes.
This looks like the one I built, but like a pro version.
Yes, it's fancy. And the LED lights are great. They let you know pretty much anything you could think of.
Right. Okay, now you're like myself, you kind of took your hobby and you took it one step further. What are you doing now?
Well, I'm in the final stages of releasing a folding stand for, well, the rest of us who don't have the room for these incredible rigs that were shown at this seminar. And it developed from an original DIY project. The old project looks like a Model T compared to the new thing that's coming out.
Right.
And the big thing that I stress during the design of this was no tools, comes out of the box ready to go, folds down, you can put it away, and hopefully it's something that your girlfriend or your mom or wife will like.
And approve to be in the house. Yes. Absolutely. Let's talk about the event. Did you know anybody prior to coming? Like, had you met anybody in person?
I'd met Greg Spears from coming out here with my truck. I was driving out here every week. I'd gotten to talking with Greg, and we actually had dinner one time when I was out here laid over. And I'd met Greg, but that was only once. But anybody else I'd never met before, Sign or none of them.
Right.
And they just sent me all my information to fly out here and then come pick me up at the airport. That was the first time I met Cy.
And had you met any other sim racers in person other than Greg? I mean, not just this group, but others?
Yeah, at the Carolina forum, or at the Carolina meet that we had, we got to go into Dale Jr.'s shop, and Junior let us come in and tour the shop, and we got to go to the Hall of Fame, which was really cool. And a lot of the Carolina guys that we got to meet, we got to go in there, and that was pretty cool. I couldn't tell you a name if I saw them now. My memory sucks.
Yeah, I've met Greg Spears in person. I've actually seen him probably 8 or 10 times. He's came to my real life racing. And then Robert, I've seen him probably 4 or 5 times in person, but everybody else here I have not met. It's nice to meet David Cater and put a face with a name.
Yeah, and he's an important one to put to the face, that's for sure. Face to. So let's talk about the event here. Did you know anybody before you came down here?
I didn't. And Cyan Alfred, he's done an amazing job putting this event on. It was 10 times better than I even hoped, and it's just amazing.
You're the organizer, and you have this whole thing going on. From that side, what are you going to take away from this event?
I think mainly the relationships. I think one thing I loved about this event was being able to get together with other sim racers, and of course, I know we all say it, being able to see them face to face. Is a great thing, but also there's a camaraderie there because we all have a passion for sim racing, and to get together with the guys that have that same passion to talk that, it's just a lot of fun, and I know we've built some lasting relationships.
So here at this seminar, this is all about learning as well. Is there anything that in particular that you're going to take away from this that you think will translate to being better when you get home?
Tire pressure for me. I always played around but never really understood it. David Cater really talked about that and the shock setups and stuff and how to get into turns and I mean really get into it. I mean you sit there and you mess around with it but you don't really understand until you get with the best.
So speaking of taking in here, is there anything in particular that you learned that you think you'll take home and it'll turn you into a better sim racer?
I know that there's so much. I mean, it's not just sitting down at a wheel and driving. And it's just like a real race car driver. You do have to analyze the data to get better and to really get good. And that's what I heard throughout the talks.
Right, absolutely. So when you were presenting to the gang here and you're looking out at the crowd, do you think that most people have a good idea of what they're doing with setup, or do you think this is something that is just sort of
going over their head? Yeah. Well, I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that the way I'm trying to explain it, it's something that everybody it sort of sinks in. It's not That's why I don't get real technical as far as what this shock does or what this chain does or something on the front end geometry, what it actually does mechanically, because it really doesn't matter.
Sure.
Only thing that really matters is what the change does to the car in the sim.
Right.
What it actually does on a real car, or how it's hooked, how the truck arm is hooked up to the rear end and stuff. It really doesn't matter.
Right.
It's just when you make that thing from a top truck arm to a bottom truck arm, what does it do to the sim car?
Right.
So I just try to explain that. Okay, when you do this is what's going to happen.
Right.
And not from the videos I've done on the forum and from what I've gathered here, everybody seems to be staying with me pretty good.
Right. So that kind of gets to that theory versus function in this case.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So, well, it was a great pleasure meeting you, and I look forward to seeing you or racing with you online very soon.
You guys, Sean, and thanks for coming.
Thanks. Well, Charles, thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you. I really enjoyed your story or your narrative of Greg Spears and his whole pitting incident. I wish I had got that on tape, but just to let you know, some of the best drivers on earth miss the pits 3 or 4 times even.
Yep.
So, anyway, pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Well, David, thank you very much
it's
for the
my
time.
pleasure. I appreciate you guys coming out, man.
Right
I was
on.
glad to meet you, brother.
Me
I really
too,
was.
and I had a blast listening to you, and I'm going to be listening to short track stuff later.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate
it. Well, Travis, it was great hanging out with you this
Sean, I love
last
it,
few
man.
days, and look forward to seing you next time we do this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right on. Well, thank you very much for your time,
Appreciate
and we'll see you next year.
Okay.
Well, great. Tim, thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you.
It was great meeting you.
And I look forward to testing out your stand when we get in the shop.
So, unfortunately, I didn't get to go, but John Hill, our good friend of the show, he got to go with you. And did you guys have a good time?
Yeah, John's a great person to go out of town with. He's definitely an entertaining person, and just like us, he's so into sim racing. So when there was a moment for questions, John was there with a question every time, and did some great camera work for us as well. So yeah, thank you very much, John.
Thank you, John, for going in my place. And like I said, I wish I was there to enjoy that with you guys. And I think that's going to wrap up this week inside sim racing. Anything else?
Todd Cannon.
Todd Cannon.
Yeah.
Well, we've already got that interview up, but
Yeah.
you ran into Todd Cannon again. That shifter. I
Yeah.
get to comment on it because I didn't in your other piece, but I didn't get to try it, unfortunately. That thing looks beef.
Yeah, that thing is one of the most insanely designed shifters I could even imagine, and it won everybody over there. I mean, I
$500 to $600.
Yeah, that's kind of steep.
Gonna
for
be a little
shifter.
pricey, but that's, you know what? We've said it on the show, you know, you get what you pay for. Todd builds things to last, and that shifter looks like it's gonna last a lifetime for whoever purchases.
Well, you saw the comment by David Cater who said, "Man, that shifter is just like the shifter in my Camaro," and it's
Yeah.
like that was exactly what I thought when I was driving that shifter, thinking, "Man, this feels just like the tranny in my Datsun."
So you also asked him about a sequential shifter, and something you didn't ask him about in that interview that I know I was curious about when you got back was the wheel he's working on.
Yeah.
And he didn't really have much to say about it.
No, I think as much as he wanted to say is there is a wheel that he is working on. Should you email him about it? No. It's not to that point, but it is in the works. But it's, if there's one thing I'll say about Todd is he's not going to even put that wheel out there to the public until it's ready. So.
And you know what? I like that about Todd Cannon. He does not come out with a product until it's ready for the public. You don't hear any issues of Todd Cannon's products out there in the public because he builds things to last. He doesn't throw things out into the public before they're ready.
No. He's kind of a perfectionist, actually.
Yeah, that's great to see, and it was great to see Todd back on the show.
Yeah.
It's been years since we've had him on, so if you haven't seen that interview, go check it out on our show. Lots coming up in the upcoming weeks here. We got Doug Wolf and Jason Collins from Eutechnics. They're going to be here in the studios showing us Auto Club Revolution and where they're at with that now.
Very cool.
We've also got Test Drive Ferrari Racing Legends. We'll have that out by the end of the week. We've already filmed it, and it's in our editor Warren Desper's hands, and he's cutting away on that, so we'll have that out as soon as possible. Sean installed the Compass Technologies SLI/button deal on his G27, and actually we had a Momo laying around, and he decided just to modify that thing, and he's got a. And I walk by every time I walk by the room and I see that thing, I'm like, damn, that thing looks like a race car.
I just can't make it be simple, though. I have to take it the complicated version, of course.
Yep. So again, check out our site, InsideSimRacing.tv. Hope you've enjoyed our show. I'm Darren Ganji.
Sean Cole.
We'll see you guys next time.